I'm gonna end it.
Hello and welcome to the Explosion Network's Captain Marvel spoiler review discussion. I'm Dylan Blunt and joining me is Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here talking about Captain Marvel.
That's good. I'm happy that you're excited to be here.
The Marvel Captain Marvel.
The Marvel yes. I've seen enough jokes online. In fact, it was really weird. They played the Shazam trailer in my screening. Did you have that happen or? I don't know if someone did it as a joke, but it was also the really old trailer. So I don't know if someone clipped it in as a joke. It was the first trailer, and it said coming next year. And I'm like, that's really confusing to play a trailer that says coming next year in a movie that's out in a couple months. Don't know what's going on there.
Well, you are in media.
That is true. Who knows what the fuck's going on down here. So of course, we're going to be discussing some of the bigger story moments and such in just a moment. Spoilers. That's the second and last time I'll actually say it because that's what this is, a spoiler review discussion. But first, Ash, what are your overall thoughts on Captain Marvel?
It was an enjoyable time. I thought it was a different story than they've told before through all their superhero movies. I feel like people were concerned. Some people were concerned about superhero fatigue. I think it's goes in a different enough direction to be different to everything else they've done sort of so far. I like Brie Larson. I've liked Brie Larson for a while, so read into that what you will. I think the chemistry she had with Samuel L. Jackson was very important and made me enjoy the film more. And then I really like what they did with the Skrulls in this film and the Kree stuff. Yeah, so yeah, didn't see it coming.
We'll dive into that in a little bit, but I agree. I didn't see it coming in. I was surprised with the direction they took it in. I guess like a lot different than I thought they would.
Iron Man 3 disc.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but not. It wasn't disappointing like that though. I guess like because it still leaves potential.
No, it didn't leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it didn't leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Is that spoilery?
I mean, we're in spoilers. I don't think it matters.
Okay.
The whole fucking thing is a spoiler. If you watch it,
you're warned.
So I gave the movie a 7 out of 10, put up a review, explosionnetwork.com, of course. I think it's perfectly fine superhero movie. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's... You know what I mean? Like, it's just... And I don't think that's particularly a bad thing because I don't need every one of them to be a Black Panther or and do something so tell such an amazing story and drastically change things about the genre and stuff like that. And I don't need them all to be Infinity War level of absolutely bonkers action scene after another. I think as much as people may not want it to be a thing for the superhero genre or the Marvel world and whatever else to continue, you are just going to have in between all the big Infinity Wars and the big ones that actually make huge changes in the genre, you're just going to have perfectly adequate superhero films, and that's fine because they can't all be 9s and 8s and whatever 10 out of 10 superhero movies. And a lot of people of course will argue that we've never even had a superhero movie in those highs of scores, but I really like Black Panther. Winter Soldier is probably my runner-up for like quality level and doing something great. But at the same time, it's like the Ant-Man films and other ones are just chucking the same level here. It's just like they're perfectly, even though Ant-Man movies are full-on comedies and a lot different to Captain Marvel, I still would probably group Captain Marvel in like Ant-Man level of, it's fine. Like it's, for what it is, it's fine. It's, my biggest problem though is, to do with Carol herself, so we can kind of just dive into the first topic because I want to get into her straight away. Or Captain Marvel, Veers, but it was weird because they called it Veers like it was double E. You know what I mean? Like that. Was I just hearing it wrong? Because like they take it off her card, like a whatever they call a.
Well, we learned that later.
We learned that later, but like it's VERS is what they see on there, but they call her Veers, don't they? But aren't they saying Yeah, but if
I couldn't understand what they were calling her like half the time.
okay,
So
because I kept hearing
I just
Veers.
interpreted that's what they were calling her.
Yeah, I'm like, if Veers is double. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Not that important. But anyways, Veers, Carol
The
Danvers.
Cree
Whoa.
language is just different to our language. They pronounce things slightly different, you know.
All right, I'll let them get away with it.
Spelling's weird.
I'll let them get away with that one. So you got Captain Marvel, Veers, Carol Danvers, Brie Larson herself, whatever you want to refer to her as. I thought she was a strong lead for the movie, which was of course a necessity given that it's a very strong character in the comic books, and B, the first female solo movie for Marvel. You kind of need to come out punching. And I as much as I don't want to start the whole like Wonder Woman versus Captain Marvel because they're the sole female solo films, and there's no reason to really have them fight, but at the same time it's hard to not kind of at least a little bit compare them.
Well, to be fair, they've kind of been pitching her as the Marvel equivalent.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so
pushing it like comics wise, like pushing her as the forefront, the major female character to Wonder Woman at DC.
Mm-hmm. And in the comics, completely different. In the movies, completely different. But it's still hard not to like look at them on the page as they were both the first out of the like Warner Brothers DC Comics like movie gate, and this is the first out of Marvel's gates.
And with that context, it's a little bit like at the end, I kind of groaned when they played "I'm Just a Girl" during that final fight scene. I'm like, oh, that's a bit on the nose. Come on, get a bit better than that.
There's one. So if I'm going to compare two scenes, so there's two. If you want to go into like which one, this is a whole argument that isn't really necessary, but it's like if you want to have the argument of which had like probably the more powerful feminist story, I guess, or however you want to word it, I would be voting on Wonder Woman. And I think Wonder Woman's scene of her coming up and like hitting the bullets way and like marching across the I don't know, no man's land, I guess is what,
like the trench.
The trench scene. I think that scene's a lot more powerful, straight out just more powerful than this scene's equivalent, which I think is the last scene where she punches Jude Law, and that scene's a lot more subtle, I guess, is also the other thing. Like it's hard to compare the scenes because they're completely polar opposite, like they're nothing alike. But the one where she delivers that final punch to Jude Law is like it's her big moment of I don't need to prove myself to you. Like so that's this film's kind of girl power message of not having to prove yourself.
I would argue it's that compilation of her getting up.
I suppose it builds into it. I suppose it's a similar sort of scene, but
I really enjoyed and thought was really really powerful when I was watching it. But then you think back and they didn't really earn it.
No. Yeah, it's fine when you're watching it, but
we'll get into it. All right.
Yeah. I enjoyed her. I'll say I enjoyed her power growth in the last act of the movie because that, of course, sets her up nicely for going into the Avengers movie. You get a clear idea of how powerful she is and how much powerful she could have become with actual more training and getting used to her powers and stuff by the time she's going to show up in Endgame. So that's good. My biggest problem with this movie and her character, though, is it just really feels like she's rushed in for Endgame. Like, it's just, they hint at a lot to do with her character, but we never really get time to explore it because it's one movie. We have time for this one movie before she has to be in Endgame. Yep. We don't have time for two movies before Endgame or anything along those lines. It's just everything that you need to know about Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, before you see her in Endgame needs to be fitted in this one movie. And I would have preferred to have had more time for her to get to know herself, grow, get to know her without the superhero stuff acting. More scenes of her just being Carol, just doing normal kind of stuff, less so than running around crazy.
That clearly comes into my problem where I think that she was handicapped by the fact it was an amnesia storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if she had been well, I know story-wise it wouldn't have worked, but if she had have known who she was all along, like you wouldn't have this issue where you feel like you didn't know who she was. Because for 90% of the film, she doesn't know who she is.
Yes. I pitch you the following idea, right? Instead, the movie's amnesia still starts the same sort of way, whatever. But once she gets on the buddy cop road movie with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, once she gets onto that storyline, the movie then continues like that for the rest of it. And they're going around and they're investigating things, and she's discovering stuff about her past. And then we get times where more emotional scenes where she can delve into her past and she starts to remember things, and she can spend more time just interacting with characters. And then you leave the showdown with Jude Law's character for the sequel, and you stretch out this film and you get the potential to just have more quiet scenes where she gets to actually travel around Earth while investigating and try to track down the scroll still, but happens to like, I'm just saying, like, if you take out Jude Law and the epic finale and all this sort of stuff, you get to spend a bit more time doing other things, is what I think.
Yeah. Well, in a perfect world, this film would have ended when it would be a two-parter. It would end when she realizes she has that flashback of the engine. Mm-hmm. In a perfect world, that would be the best way to do it, I think. And then, like you said, she can sort of explore it, explain, learn about herself, and that sort of thing. And then, yeah, that's how it ends. It ends with her learning that Jude Law was the villain all along.
She learns all that. She does that flashback scene, but then we get more time flashing back. We get a bit more of her history and to get to know her, because I enjoy Brie Larson fine as Captain Marvel. Yeah. I don't feel like I get to know Brie Larson as Carol Danvers is I suppose the way to boil it down. Because a lot of the movie, she's Veers, I guess.
Well, to be fair, the movie's called Captain Marvel, not Carol Danvers.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's...
yeah. Although, to be fair, do most of the other movies...
I know...
in the Marvel universe?
By nowadays, I know what Scott Lang's like as a person.
But most of them are, like, intertwined. There's not a distinction between the two.
Somewhat. I feel like there is depending on the character. But even then, it's like Captain America is Captain America, right? And you understand his values and his standards. And, you know, he's the good old American hero. He's just a very typical American hero, isn't he? But like, he doesn't really have an alternative idea. He's just a character. You know, his powers aren't so much about what he can do, more so than his willingness to do what he does, I guess, even though he's powerful, I guess. Whereas I do feel like a lot of this movie is focused on what she can do and how she's being trained. And then they even like put the power thing on her to make sure her powers are lowered and that sort of stuff. And then the movie's epic finale is her discovering that she's a lot more powerful than what she is. And I suppose it's just because I see hints at another movie or hints at scenes that could have been built on, because we see flashbacks to her as a child, and she's crashing the go-kart thing or whatever it was, and her dad comes over and starts yelling at her. We see scenes of her being pushed over as a kid and stuff, and like you see all the stuff where she gets up and up and up and up, you know, like that gives you an idea of the character of Carol Danvers, like what she was growing up, like what her childhood was like, and what she went through as she even came into the army and she wanted to fly jets and all this stuff. You get an idea of what kind of character she was, but never enough of it to really give me a full picture of Carol Danvers. I guess you can use the excuse like, oh, it's the amnesia. We don't have time to really deal with that. And the movie is about her not understanding who she is either. But I think my biggest problem is because I know a bit over a month from now, we're going to be watching Avengers Endgame, and basically every character in that movie, I know what they are, what they stand for. I know a lot more about them as just people. I know what they're like when they're just chilling around talking shit. You know what I mean? Like, I know what they're like in superhero mode, and I know what they're like when they're just chilling. I have a bigger idea of who they are as people, and I just feel like if we'd got two movies before with her, like, you could have I just wished it was Captain Marvel 2 leading into Avengers Endgame instead of just Captain Marvel 1. That sounds like a lot of negative stuff, but as I said before, I did give the movie a 7. I enjoyed it. I think it's perfectly fine. I was just disappointed with not getting enough.
It's not really a negative if your thing is, I wish I had more.
I guess, yeah. I just wished I'd got more time with her just being herself and getting to know herself and stuff. And we get glimpses of that, those little parts, especially the parts where she's just running around with Sam Jackson. I keep saying Sam Jackson. Nick Fury, whatever. Yeah, when she's running Fury, don't say Nicholas. When she's running around with Fury and that stuff, they're probably they're probably my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Actually, it's just when those two are together and they're going around they're in the car, the army base, all that sort of stuff that's going on around there. Even the scenes when she then arrives at her friend's place and you get to see her like talking to her and like having a little bit of a laugh about stuff. And that sort of stuff. But then it's like everything before then where you obviously know, as soon as the movie starts, you know something's up, right? Even if you haven't read the comics, you kind of know something's up because of the way the story's being told. And it never really hurts. So, yeah. What do you think, though, on all that?
No, I think it's interesting that the character that we're going to see in Endgame could be vastly different to the one we see seen in Captain Marvel. That's
also a big thing, of course, you know. I don't recall if they said the exact year that Captain Marvel takes place, but we know it's the 90s.
It's the 90s.
I suppose you could look it up.
At least 20 years.
We could technically look it up if we say, hold on, let's do some rough maths. True Lies. True Lies was released in 1994. So let's assume that this movie came out
at least 1994.
This movie's taken place.
When was it released in 1994? Hey? If it was released like end of the year, it'd be 1995 because it wouldn't have come out on VHS till later.
Oh, that's a very good point. We're doing some proper journalistic research into figuring out when this movie actually takes. 1st of September 1994. So let's presume this is mid 1995 or something, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
They used to take ages for stuff to come back out on VHS. So yeah, let's say this movie's taking place in 1995, and then Avengers Endgame's 2018-19, like whatever. Like it's usually the current date and year, roughly. So yeah, 20 years.
25 years, yeah.
That's people can change in 2 years when you don't talk to them. People change in 5 years when you don't talk to them. She has a lot of history. She's a lot's gone on. So yeah, once again, it's like we're introduced to a character. We never really get to know Carol Danvers, but then Carol Danvers is going to run off and become who she actually is as a person. In all this time, we never actually get to see her. And then that brings up other questions I have about the future of her character, which is when they eventually do the sequel to this movie, is it going to just be set after Endgame, or are they going to flash back and show you what she was doing, helping out the Skrull in between this movie, in between Captain Marvel and Endgame kind of thing, like what she did with the Skrull, because obviously that's a continuing story. Obviously, the Skrull are kind of being set up to be something big in the future of the Marvel universe. I feel that's kind of what they're setting up there. I feel like they are. I feel like they were setting them up for potential bad guys or something down the line to still use them because they could swing them. That's a whole thing, of course, as well. But like what she did with the Kree, because of course she runs off. She says she's going to, kick all their asses and stuff. But then we know that Ronan's still running around Guardians, like 10 years after this. Roughly 10 years after this. I suppose timelines still getting confusing. There was a stage where Marvel timelines were always
20 years
one
later.
after another.
18 years-ish later.
Yeah, so
Guardians come out.
So what happened there? Yeah, there's lots. I don't know. It's just...
Well, once we get to Jude Law, I've got a theory on what happens. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you got nothing else to say, I'll say that, yeah. Let's just wrap it up and say Brie Larson was great for what she had. I quite enjoyed her. I just wish we got more, especially more before Endgame.
I think, there was small moments of, like, character.
Yes.
Like, when she pulls the face when she's fighting, the dude rolls at her.
Yeah, you see little bits of stuff, but then it's also weird because they chose to give all of the comedic lines basically all to characters that aren't her for the most of the time.
Mostly.
Like Sam Jackson gets a lot of funny lines. Even I'm meant to blank on his line here. Who the fuck? What's the bad guy? Ben Mendelsohn gets obviously lots of funny lines and stuff. But the cat gets lots of funny lines, I suppose, if you want to look at it that way. She never really gets given a free handout moment to help her case as being a likable character, especially in a world where all these fucking fuckboys are online screaming about how she's a terrible character because she's a female.
When
and
the
stuff.
guy on the motorbike came up,
that was a good scene. That was a good scene. Didn't you like that one?
No, I thought it was
Oh,
I don't know, maybe a little bit.
I feel like it was on the nose, but it was.
I feel like in the future that clip's going to be used.
I feel like it was a very open fuck you, like just a very straight up.
Yeah,
like that's why they weren't really trying to hide it. All right, so let's talk about Sam Jackson, one Samuel L. Jackson, one Nicholas Fury in this movie. So I really, as I just said, I enjoyed their buddy cop montages thing happening where they're montage, that's really the thing, where they're invading the base and they're getting in the car and they're chatting, and him and Brie Larson both have really great chemistry. I thought like really, really good, and of course that was necessary for the film. It's also crazy, and it blew my fucking mind how well they keep getting better at this technology and de-aging actors. It is blowing my fucking mind continuously. And
I mean, sorry, young actors, you're not gonna have any jobs.
Basically, it's this technology just every year, I swear, gets better and better and better until like he literally just looks like Samuel Jackson, like Pulp Fiction era Samuel Jackson. And I completely forgot. Like it wasn't until I was driving home after watching it that I started thinking about the movie. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He's older. Like I completely
He's old.
He's old. I brought it 100%. There was not a second. There was not a single scene where I was like, oh, that was a single dodgy second of VFX there happening where I didn't buy into it for a second or something. It constantly looked spot on. It really, really blew my mind, which
incredible, really.
We've seen the technology used before, but like he's in the movie for like 3/4 of it. And he's like one of the main characters, and it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. It gets me more excited for that Martin Scorsese film coming out this year where they're going to have de-age Robert Downey Jr., Robert De Niro, sorry, and Al Pacino. But that's a whole thing. I'm like, are they using the same technology? Because it's going to be great if they are. Yeah, so he looks great. Great chemistry. The character, Nick Fury, in this, I thought was an interesting choice with what they did with it. I liked it, like it was enjoyable to watch, but I found it interesting that they took the character of Fury, who we've basically always known as this badass motherfucker. Yeah. And in this, he's not like we're not trying to say he's soft, like it's not a complete 180, but he's definitely not as pissed off at the world, I guess is the way to say it, I guess. Yeah.
He's seen some shit, but not a lot of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't seen the shit he does, because by the time he shows up by the time we start seeing him in the other movies, End of Iron Man and whatever the hell else, when we first start seeing him, Avengers, Iron Man 2, whatever. He's fucking eye patch, coat, black coat, serious guy, very, very serious guy, continues to be a very serious guy at all points of time, seeing some shit. But in this, of course, he's getting down and being like, oh, cute cat. He's cracking jokes. He's having a great old time. So it was interesting. It was more Samuel Jackson, I guess, like more what I would call a like Samuel Jackson being Samuel Jackson role, like especially a 80s, 90s Samuel Jackson role, really, which makes sense given they de-age him and everything to match the era of which he's taking place in, I suppose is the thing. Yeah. And him and that cat, shout out to that cat as well, nearly steals the movie. Much steals the movie. Goose pretty much steals the movie, yeah. What do you have any other thoughts on Nick Fury or Samuel L. Jackson?
No, he was great, and yeah, this de-aging technology is incredible. I mean, we're going to see Meryl Streep in films for another 50 years now.
Yeah, all young and upcoming actresses, you are fucked.
You've got even more competition.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, it was really interesting to see how he lost his eye.
Oh yeah,
he didn't really lose it though.
Yeah, I love the way they did that. 100% love the way they did that, because they build it out throughout the whole movie, and you're expecting it to be this epic fucking laser beam to the eye, something crazy, and then when you get towards the end of the movie, you're like, still hasn't lost his eye, and then all of a sudden the cat just swipes. That's all it was. It's not even the cat's an alien, whatever they call it, a
Florian.
Yeah. So I suppose his eye was taken out by an alien, just not.
Yeah.
What we thought.
I'm sure that's how he tells it to everybody as well.
Well, that's how they hint at the end there. It's like,
it's also interesting going back. I'm looking at some old Avengers or earlier stuff. There is definitely the 3 scratch marks across his eye. Mm-hmm. Like it's not retconned or whatever. So yeah.
I wonder if I don't reckon they would have planned it.
I reckon from the beginning.
Yeah. They always
John
knew.
Favreau.
Yeah, I always knew what they were doing.
Like creature.
Yeah, I have no idea if that's I've never in the comics read anything that's like a random issue that he's ever had explained in, but I don't know if it's drawn from anything. Potentially, don't know. All right, so then we have the Kree, the combination of the Kree group, of course, headed up by Jude Law, leading as the Young Rog, and then you get the reappearances also. Well, there's a bunch of other characters, but then there's the standout reappearances of Digimon Hond. I can never say his name. I'm sorry, Honzo, and Lee Pace, of course, as
Lee Pace looks. I didn't really.
Ronan.
He looks completely different.
He's younger. He's 20 years younger.
If he didn't say it was Ronan, I wouldn't have known it was Ronan.
No, I mean, it's the same.
Especially because he's standing next to another guy who looks exactly the same.
Behind him at that scene, wearing the exact same clothes and everything. Yeah, I mean, they have that one hologram set. The first scene, he comes in with the hologram, and he has the weapon, of course, that he has from that movie. It's like, look, I'm Ronan. I've got the weapon you should know me from. I'm definitely Ronan. Do you remember me? But both of these characters, I felt, were just like, especially like, particularly Ronan, just felt like forced in. I feel unnecessary, a little bit too much of, oh, we can fit him in this movie because it'll make sense and it'll be really cool. But then I wasn't sitting at my screen going, oh, it's the character, that bad guy from Guardians of the Galaxy. Whoa, you're blowing my mind. It's like these like tie-ins, unless they make heaps of sense these days, aren't that impressive, of course, when you've got Infinity War and stuff where fucking 20 million characters are getting tied in. So the small tie-in stuff actually needs to make sense these days, and it's not as impressive when it just happens, I guess.
Yeah. There was a few tie-in things to the universe that was a bit groan-worthy, but yeah.
Yeah, even the what the fuck is the cube? Fuck, I don't remember. The Tesseract.
Tesseract.
Yeah, that's
no.
that
I didn't mind that reveal. That was, I think, oh, that makes sense. Why they've got suddenly been able to develop light speed travel. Obviously, the space stone.
Where'd she get it? Where'd she get it from? Marvel.
She clearly just went to the bottom of the ocean. Yeah.
I never explained that. It's like,
she's an alien. You saw them dive at the beginning of the movie. They can go deep in the water.
But I suppose. All right, sure.
Yeah.
What's your big Jude Law theory then? What's your?
No, no. At the end, she beats him, sends him back to the Krees, and obviously they reveal everything that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they joined the alliance with the Nova Corps. By the time the Guardians of the Galaxy movie comes out. And that's why Ronan is upset, because they've moved away from being sort of a war race.
That doesn't sound like a thing that Jude Law's character would be down for.
Emotion. Yeah.
I suppose, but it doesn't sound like you'd go back and be like, we need to really...
I think I'm probably doing a little bit of stretching, but I think that's like their intention, yeah.
Well, we definitely know something happens because like two of these characters... Lee Paces and Digimon's. Is that how you say his name before I fucking go and say it? Okay. I'm very, very sorry. If you're watching this, I'm very, very sorry. You're not watching this, but I'm very sorry. Both of those characters end up, of course, separated out of the Kree base there, or whatever they call that section. Yeah. At some point in the near future, we know that for sure. So, but then it's like it doesn't make sense for me, like Jude Law, go back and be like, I guess we'll just split up everything because she's protecting the place now and she found out all our dirty secrets. So
I thought she had like some information that was going to get spread. I can't remember exactly.
It seemed like they just set him up potentially for, of course, to be a returning bad guy in a sequel. So,
well, we don't know what a sequel is going to look like, so who knows?
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's my other problem, as I was saying before.
Another villain that didn't actually die.
Yeah.
I feel like that's rare.
Yeah. What do you think of him as well? Like just Jude Law in that role?
It's fine.
Yeah. I thought he was
nothing too impressive. I mean, he looked impressive when he was fighting and stuff, but yeah, and I didn't see the turn coming. So.
No, neither did I. So that worked. And up until that point, I thought he was, I thought he came across as a charming character, and that like she got along well with him, and he just came across as a nice guy, and he believed his shit. And that's, I guess, important to the movie's plot for you to be able to believe that character's shit. So
I feel like going into this, we all had the impression that he was going to turn, but I didn't realize it was going to be that, or he was going to be a bad guy or something. But yeah, I still didn't see it coming.
I assumed he would be a bad guy or kind of maybe even Green Lantern-ish. And by that, I just mean like Sinestro's a good guy and then by the end ends up a bad guy type route, but not like he's like he's hiding a big secret
Like
type thing.
No, not like a villain, but an antagonist against.
Yeah, somehow. The way it all went down where they pulled a 180 and pulled the carpet out from underneath us, I did not see coming. All right, so talking about that though, well, that's probably one of my favorite moments of the
so good
of the entire movie is seeing the big reveal with Ben Mendelsohn's character. And overall, I think Ben Mendelsohn in this movie is maybe, I'd say he could end up underrated by a lot of people, although I thought he was really, really great in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the direction they take his character, but then also his performance in a role where he's under a lot of prosthetics and makeup and stuff like that. And it was but you still under all that could tell, like it was a very emotive performance, which I think is a big plus to the makeup department and stuff, to be able to put all that on his face, but still be able to get such like a good performance out of him without him being like restricted and stuff. So I thought that was really great. But as a character and him pulling that character off, it works. And I think often one of the problems with these sorts of roles that happens is they set him up and then they have the reveal and they're like, oh no, actually they're a good guy. But then you look back at what they've done throughout the start of the movie, and you can often go, well, but they did this and this and this. Like they're still a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like you often pinpoint things. But whereas this character, you kind of go, well, he never actually did
try to kill or anything.
Yeah, like we never actually.
We want information out of you.
Yeah, we never saw him kill anyone, really. Like we never saw the Skrulls actually kill anyone in the movie.
No, and even the one who died was just trying to stop. Obviously, Nick Fury had worked out that he was a Skrull, because Coulson was and yeah, he pulled a gun on him, but I mean,
yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, you never.
And then the other guy on the train was sort of just defending himself.
Yeah, like they never did anything too bad that when you look back in retrospective, you're like, oh, yeah, but they were really bad. Like they're not actually all good. Whereas once a reveal happens, it's just that actually does all make sense, and I quite liked it.
They did try and shoot her at the start when she's on the phone with Nick Fury when they first meet up.
Yeah, but you know, it's one bad egg. One bad egg.
Maybe the gun was set to stun.
Yeah, maybe. We'll never actually know.
No,
it blew up the phone machine though. I think so. Maybe it wasn't the safest. Yeah, no.
What was the aim? Just stop it communicating.
I really enjoyed him though. I thought it was great. I thought
he was so good.
That I would really like to see more of these characters, particularly him, like the Skrulls and where they decide to take them. And I like not having them just outwardly be bad guys. I thought is really smart for the Marvel universe, because we're kind of at a point where they just keep, of course, introducing bad guys. Like nearly every alien race is bad. So to finally have an alien race where we're told are bad, but to have them turn out to they're not bad. It's like, okay, well, that's actually something quite refreshing for the Marvel universe, because it's constantly this thing of, well, the only good people out there are the Asgardians and
Groots,
I guess. Like it's everyone else is on every other alien planet is apparently a bad guy, so that's nice. But they could still they could still bring the Skrulls and his character in particular back to being where they are mostly known in the comics and stuff as bad guys, but they can get there in a much more interesting way that makes sense and tell a more character-driven story for him as a bad guy, where because of what we know from this movie, and you feel sorry for him and you understand his character and you understand his drive, what he was doing and why he wanted to do it and everything, where if they'd now taken a direction where like his family gets killed and his people get wiped out, he gets found like 20 years later, the Kree find him and stuff, they could go down that route, or murder his family or something like those rounds. They're opening it up to have a bad guy that's actually you could feel sorry for and understand, I guess, kind of a little bit more like a Harvey Dent, I suppose, which is like as fucked up as Harvey Dent gets in The Dark Knight. When Harvey Dent starts turning to Two-Face, it is that thing of like you feel sorry for him, like he was broken.
Yeah.
So yeah, I quite like where they leave the Skrulls and him.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on Ben Mendelsohn or
Great
the
casting? Because obviously he's been playing that sort of role a lot recently with Rogue One and Ready Player One. So to everyone get the impression that's what he's going to do again, and then sort of turn it on its head. Brilliant. Really good scene in the spaceship where they ask him what he can turn into.
Yeah, and he's like, funny. Rolls his eyes basically. Can you turn into a filing cabinet?
Why would I want to turn into a filing cabinet?
Why would I turn into a filing cabinet? He's delivering everything. This is
his fear of the cat was also
was also quite funny. Yeah, it's funny though, because I feel like you could very easily kind of look at him in this role, and even before the reveal, say it's just like his role in Rogue One. It's just like his role in as you said before, Ready Player One or something. But even before his reveal, it didn't feel like the same sort of bad guy to me at all. Like it didn't feel as evil from the get-go. So I found that quite interesting. And also quite enjoyed that he just kept his Australian accent.
Yeah.
He's an alien, right? So it's fine, whatever.
Skrulls have Australian accents.
Skrulls are officially Australian accents. But yeah, not once do they really try and... It's just the whole movie's like, fucking... We've got to get down there and get fucking... got to get that woman, eh? Get down there.
It just sounded like Ben Mendelsohn, so he's probably more prominent for other people.
Probably, yeah. I feel like in Rogue One, he tones it down a little bit, though. And even Ready Player One tones it down a little bit. In this, it just sounded more prominent, like he was just talking normally, I guess.
Well, I guess if you got that much stuff on your face,
it's like, that's it. One or the other. I can't try and tone down the accent and wear this shit, okay? Which one do you want me to do, guys? Which one do you want me to do?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about leading into Endgame, of course, because that's out next month. End credit scene, of course, has Captain Marvel showing up in front of the team. We get to see...
Is that a scene cut directly from Avengers?
I highly doubt it. I think that's just a teaser scene thing, much like when there was that scene where they was cutting Bucky's arm out of the... Or whatever they was doing. I can't even know. They had Bucky chained up or whatever. Remember?
Yeah.
And
it's almost like it could have been cut out of the film, but...
Yeah, I don't reckon this scene will end up in the movie. No, because it's not really necessary. But it's also... I
don't know. I think it could. If that's how she shows up, then...
Just shoot it from a different angle. Just have her walk in. I don't know, but... I think the interesting thing... The thing with these scenes are... This scene is a direct sequel to an after-credit scene, you know? Which means that they don't need to have it from the movie. Like... If you never even watch the after credit scene for Avengers, then having this scene in Endgame would be weird because you wouldn't understand what the page is. So that's why I'm like, it's a direct sequel to an end credit scene, and then these two scenes mash up, and then they stand on their own, they're fine. And then Endgame doesn't need to have this scene or mention the pager at all. She kind of just shows up and whatever the hell else, it's fine. You don't really need to explain it. I thought it was fine. It's you call see Captain America and they're all like they're powering up the pager by a fucking neutron bomb to keep it going or something.
How did they know that pager was important?
It was his car. They found it, I guess. Like it was sitting there on the ground. It was flashing. They presumed it was Nick Fury's, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe they like video footage.
On the back, it said end.
Only explanation.
On the back, it just had Fury written or something. I don't know. Like, the black marker pen.
For emergencies.
Yeah, for emergencies only. Although, another thing I will say with the introduction of the pager in the movie and her being like, only for emergencies, it doesn't really help when you look back and go, Avengers 1, Avengers 2? He never thought once during either of those movies. Neither of those were big emergencies because I'm pretty sure the world was close to...
Really,
no. He by emergency,
end of the world stuff.
He's only going to use it when he knows he's literally about to die and turn into dust. That's the only time we can use this pager that is just magically keeps in the backseat of his boot at all points in time. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm willing to like forgive the pager and all its kind of weird plot holes it opens up to me. Well, not really plot holes, but like universe
Issues.
plot holes issues. I guess is
Was he even in Avengers 2?
Oh, it doesn't mean he couldn't. He called the fuck. Doesn't mean he couldn't have paged for help.
Oh, he wouldn't have known.
He would have known. He would have turned on TV.
Well, he was just watching. He only saw the news, and there's this giant.
How about Avengers 1? I bet you
thing
rewatch Avengers 1, there's that scene where he's like, oh God, we're all going to fail. Or something. You know, like when shit's going really bad. How about then?
No, he was just waiting till if that nuke got detonated, then he was going to hit that button.
Yeah, that must have been 100% what he was waiting for. So, as I said before, I do feel like the character's being somewhat rushed in, and it's going to be interesting / a little bit weird to see her show up with all those other characters. Even seeing her in this short scene with the mole was, I'm like, God, I haven't had enough time with you to be in this movie yet. I'm like, I need more time.
Spider-Man just showed up.
No, we got a movie with Spider-Man.
Black Panther just showed up in the middle of the Civil War. They both just showed up in the middle of the Civil War.
No, because it's they were introduced in that movie. I feel like I would have actually preferred this. All right, this is what I'll say. I would have preferred for her to just show up in Endgame and then get a movie following introducing me to the character. I would have preferred.
All right, what about Ant-Man? I had Ant-Man, and then he was in Civil War next.
Oh, yes, I suppose. I think it's just because I know there's a lot riding on her shoulders, I guess is the thing. Like, because she's basically being set up to be the next leader, potentially, of the group. Yeah, I guess that's
it'll be interesting because she looks kind of overpowered.
Yes, kicks everyone's ass. Well, she's the most powerful of them all now, really. Like, more powerful than Thor, potentially, is what the argument is, I guess. And then she's the leader of the team when everyone dies in this movie and whatever else happens. So
it could be interesting because her powers came from that engine thing, which was some way built by the Tesseract. I get the impression.
Something, yeah.
So then maybe he can use the Tesseract, the stone, to take her powers away.
No, I don't want to see that. Sick of these fucking.
No, I'm just saying it's a possibility. We'll just mess with them.
It is a possibility. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I now that I've said that out loud, I definitely sold. I would have much preferred her to just show up in this film. I feel. I like just have her show up. So
you would have preferred if this had to come out after.
Yeah. Not the cut the way it is now, because obviously you could do the movie a little bit different. I feel if you make the movie a little bit different if it's post Endgame, because it's obviously made in a certain way to be made to go into before Endgame. But I feel like I would have rathered her being introduced kind of like a Black Panther or something like that, and then get her story. Because I feel like if they introduced her in Endgame first, then they would have freed up the potential with a little bit less weight on their shoulders, and would have been able to spend more time like with the actual character, rather than her powers and who she is as a superhero and stuff, and more time spent on who she is as a person, I guess, is all I feel. Because it's like Black Panther. Once you get introduced, you don't really know much about Black Panther in Civil War. You get to see him kick ass. He fucking runs super fast. He looks cool. You get all these.
What he can do.
You get the general gist, yeah. And in Black Panther, you get a movie about family and honor, and you know what I mean. Like they don't really need to. They spend the first 5 minutes giving you an action scene in the forest, and then after that, they kind of go into a completely different movie that doesn't feel like it's actually anything part of the Marvel universe. So, yeah. But I'll say for this one, my biggest worry going into this movie initially for Captain Marvel was I was worried it was going to be a lot like the first Avenger, which I really don't like, because I thought that Captain America: The First Avenger felt like one really long prologue to the first Avengers film. Just shaking your head. So I'm not a big fan of that movie because of I really just felt like it was a big trailer to sell the original Avengers movie, and I was worried that this was going to be something similar. It stands on its own though. Apart from
it doesn't need to. Everyone's going to go see this next.
Oh
movie.
yeah, for sure. But I was worried they'll do I was worried they would connect this too much to Endgame, I guess is my thing. I was worried they were going to try and connect it in a little bit too much, or have too much story hints or stuff like characters come in or little nods at how she's going to help save the day in Endgame. These sorts of things like setups happening throughout it, but it doesn't. It's its own story, and really the only reason that you need to watch this movie before Endgame is just so you can have a sense of that character before she shows up in Endgame. There's no like story reason really.
It's going to be interesting to see, because I'm sure that apparently if you read what's on the internet, there's going to be a lot of people going to Endgame not watching this. So it'll be interesting to see
how that works out. Yeah.
How that works out for them.
Yeah. All these people who are like, fuck her. And then they're like a month from now going to be like, Avengers Endgame's the best movie of all time. And then we'll be like, she's in it. Like, she's one of the stars of it. How do you feel now? How do I handle this? My franchise is ruined. What do I do now? Fucking idiots. So overall though, wrapping up, I guess, where as I said before, gave it a 7. Thought it was fine.
Like a 7.5 to an 8.
Yeah, so just like a little bit higher than me.
A little bit more. I enjoyed the 90s aesthetic as well. I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought the music was cool. I didn't think apart from the blockbuster thing and the loading tape scene was quite funny as well. But like other than that, the 90s aesthetic didn't really do too much because they weren't spending a lot of time in like suburban or areas full of people where you could see a lot of stuff, like because they was in the army base and then that was in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. You know what I mean? There wasn't much time to see cars, fashion, trends, hints at stuff apart from the blockbuster scene and that, of course.
They could be in machines anytime. Yeah, I guess.
Oh, and one thing I forgot to point out before that I do need to note in this video / podcasting is the woman behind me. When the end credit scene happened, it nearly made me laugh out loud. It ends, just Captain Marvel shows up, fades to black, and then the cinema's quiet, and all I hear from behind me is this woman go, "Nice." And it wasn't like a nice. It was a long nice. I was like
a 69 nice.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the thing that happened, and that was quite funny.
Also, last week, the changing of Nick Fury's project.
Oh, that was
kind of great. It was like eye roll.
It was a little bit because it was such a long scene. Such a long scene. You could have cut it at him looking at the name on the plane, if anything. Like, if you want to do that and tie her into being the birth of the Avengers, which is what that scene really is. It's like she is the birth of the Avengers. She's like the heart and soul of what the Avengers is, because that's what got Fury to breed it, I guess. But, like, have him look at it, read Avenger on the plane, cut to blank. But he reads it, then cuts back to his face, and then shows him slowly clicking one key. One key. Like it's so slow. Yeah. But I feel like if they just cut it at the plane, the scene would have got a little bit more bang pop from it, and like just rely on the audience to put it together in their head rather than giving them the time to go, he's typing the word event. Oh, he's changing it to event. Yeah. So that's my only problem with that particular one. Any final thoughts on Captain Marvel?
No, I think we covered pretty much all of it.
Did we though?
Pretty good.
Did we?
Looking forward to seeing more of Captain Marvel, I guess. Yeah, do you reckon what sort of numbers do you think it's?
What do you mean? Money wise or
like financially? Money wise, yeah.
I reckon it'll do.
Oh, it's definitely not going to do Avengers Black Panther numbers.
I reckon it'll do, as I was saying before, it'll do Ant-Man money. Sure.
I think it'll do a bit more than Ant-Man money. Yeah. I think it's a terrible thing to say, but I think a lot of females are going to want to go back and see it again, maybe. Just to stick it to the angry white man.
Yeah, well, I saw it got review bombed on multiple sites as soon as the user reviews were back up for Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. So that's if you're looking for reviews on this website, don't trust any user reviews because they're all fucked at this point. They're all fucked. It's just a terrible thing, but that's a thing that's happening, of course. I'm looking forward to seeing more of excited for Avengers. I feel like also putting this out so close to Avengers is going to fuck it kind of financially. Not like fuck it, that's probably a bit too far, but I do feel like it affects it somewhat for people who maybe only want to go out to the movies every so often, or you know what I mean? Like you're asking a lot. I understand it's a little bit over a month, but it's like what is it, like 40 days or something like after release or something close to that. So it's very fucking close to ask people.
Let's do a double feature.
You probably could. Like this, it will probably be like, hey, it's finishing this week and Endgame starting the week after. So it's also really weird. Another really weird thing about this movie is if you're someone who doesn't go watch all the Marvel movies in cinema and only go watch, say, the Avengers. Like you'll wait for the rest to come out, but you just go watch Avengers because you want to see the big events on the cinema screen, but you watch the rest on Blu-ray and stuff. You can't for this. You're fucked at this point for this movie because
the same thing happened with Black Panther last year.
Did it?
Yeah, that came out like February,
and it wasn't out on Blu-ray in time for.
I don't think so. No.
No, well, that's weird. I don't know why they do this because it just fucks people into this weird thing. There should be enough time. The previous one should be out on home video before the next one's in cinema.
You think they would space them out a bit more, but no.
Yeah, that's all I think. Like I didn't know Black Panther got as fucked as well, but that's really quite weird. It's not as cool. That wasn't as close as this one.
Went to Black Panther, so.
That is true. That's true. But it's less monetary thing, more because I know like my dad, for example, like he may want to go watch Endgame, but he wouldn't go watch all the subsequent films in between kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas if he wants to keep up to date for Endgame, it's going to force him to have to go watch this one in the cinema if he wants to be up to date for Endgame. So it's really weird how you wouldn't space them out. And especially, it's not like, hey, let's rule the box office. It's like, calm down, Disney. You've got about 50 billion other huge movies that are coming out this year. You're pretty much going to own the cinema as is. Just spread out the Marvel movies so people have time to watch them at home or something like that. There's no need to bank them back to back to back. Yeah, it also gives this movie no time for digestion really at all. Like a lot of time, the most discussion of a movie like takes a month or so, and you know by the time people are barely beginning to discuss this movie or delve more into it and stuff, it's going to be finishing at the cinema, and then we're straight onto Avengers. And then by the time this movie comes out in Blu-ray, everyone's going to be like, who fucking cares? Where's the Endgame Blu-ray? Like, who cares about this at this stage?
Yeah.
Give us someone. Where's that? Yeah, so interesting. Let's see how it turns out, though. That's it. Thank you for joining us on this review discussion for Captain Marvel. You can, of course, if you're listening, watch it on youtube.com/Explosion Network. If you're watching it there, make sure you ring the bells and give the double thumbs up and do all the things that are necessary. You can listen to all our review discussions by Explosion Network, of course, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting services, or find all of the above things mentioned on explosionnetwork.com, as well as our movie and TV podcast hosted by the one and only Ashley Hobley. What do you want to watch? You can follow me on Twitter at Vivaladil, Vivaladil. You can follow Ash on Twitter at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEY. You can follow Explosion Network on Twitter at Explosion Pod, and let us know there in the comments below or in our Discord at explosionnetwork.com/Discord what you thought of the film, and tell us all the things that we presumably got wrong and how angry you are at me for saying that there should have been more Carol Danvers when all that sort of stuff. But I hope you had a great time watching it. I'll see you next one.
We need to.
What happened?
What about Goose? Is he still alive?
I mean, aliens live forever, so yes.
Was caring for Goose this whole entire time?
I like to think so. I like to think that he cared for Goose this entire time. And at the end of the year, Goose and Porgs are going to be the reigning animal champions of the year.
Carol Danvers is going to check out Nick Fury's apartment, and Goose is just going to be there.
That's by the time Endgame comes out, it's like, here's the important things that you missed if you didn't watch Captain Marvel before watching Endgame. 1, you don't know why that cat is important. That's it. That's the only important fact.
Nick Fury had a cat.
Nick Fury had a cat. You didn't know.
Do you think they were caring for him at the airbase in the time between when Marvel dies and they
I think it was caring for itself by
was
eating.
Was she just a stray running around and then just eating a random person every now and then?
I thought it was a stray that was just eating random people. And if I
Yeah.
want to go so far, at one stage I thought it was actually going to be Marvel herself who had transfigured into the cat.
Ooh, McGonagall style.
Yeah, McGonagall was like, I legit thought that.
Be a reveal.
Yeah. And then when it turned out it had tentacles, that was a completely different direction than I thought it was.